So what's the moral of the story? Do not inject unknown substances into your body. Don't do drugs, kids. Welcome back. Today, we are going to be talking about the highly anticipated Alien Romulus 2024, directed by Fede Alvarez. And well, this time the film follows a group of workers trying to escape another planet by stealing a ship, but when they arrive, a couple familiar creatures decide to show their face, and like every other alien film, shit goes wrong. And this film blew me away. I was genuinely surprised by how good this film was. I had an idea of what this film would be like. By the trailer, you can kind of tell that they were going for more of that 1979 original Alien feel and story, and that's what you get. But holy shit, do you get more than that? And so because of that, leading up to this film, I was excited about this film, but I wasn't ecstatic. You know, I really love the Alien franchise. By the way, if you want me to, I will make a video deep diving on the Alien franchise. Like seriously, I mean, Alien 1 is amazing. Alien 2, I mean, changes what Alien 1 is, but still does its own thing and is great. Alien 3, depending on the cut you see, is how good it is. We're going to talk about Resurrection, and then I loved Prometheus and Covenant. And so I was kind of distraught by the fact that they weren't going to continue Ridley Scott's new trilogy and finish off David's story and how that would tie into the original films. But seeing this, my worries were gone. I have seen a couple interviews since the movie came out, and Fede Alvarez is a fan of the franchise, and he's especially a fan of Prometheus, Covenant, and the whole Alien lore, and I love that about this film. And you can really see how he puts that in this film, where it merges the old films with the new films. And that's one of the best aspects of this film, is how it keeps everything together, and it makes it feel like they all belong in the same world. And this film in itself is obviously a lot closer to the original movie, where you have a small crew. Most of it takes place in just one location. Things go wrong. 90% of the crew dies. But because of where it takes place in the timeline, and how, you know, Alvarez is a fan of the original movies, it deals with the repercussions of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and the greed that they established in Prometheus, and a lot of the ideas that they established in Prometheus, which is more than I was initially expecting. First and foremost, I have to talk about the cast. In Alien fashion, this movie has an amazing female lead in that of Kaylee Spaney, who does a phenomenal job as Rain. And unlike Ripley or Shaw, Rain is young and naive. She's a little bit hard-headed. She doesn't really know what she's doing. All she knows is that she wants to take care of Andy, and she's willing to put on her big pants whenever she needs to. And whenever somebody hands her a gun, she just goes, okay, just tell me where to aim and I'll do it. But of course, she's accompanied by her synthetic brother, Andy, and oh my god, Andy is the heart of this film. David Johnson does a beautiful job at playing this sweet and naive artificial person. But when things go wrong and they put this chip in him in order to give him more access codes, it changes his programming, and he becomes a lot stronger, a lot more tough, and it has a British accent. Man, his acting is phenomenal, because up until that point, Andy gets bullied because he's not human. They say he's not a real person, and so they mess around with him. And it's really sad, and you feel a lot for Andy. And so when he does this, it feels a little bit deserved, but you also don't want to root for him, because he ends up just acting in Weyland-Yutani's corporation benefit, because that's just what the chip software is installed with. And so by the end, obviously he takes it off, he returns to his more original form. And it's just so sweet, man. He's such a sweet character, and him and Rain are just so sweet and nice together, and you really want them to succeed, and hopefully he does. There's implications at the end that he could have lived. It's a little hard to tell right now. If they do anything with this movie and with this new franchise in the future, we'll see. Oh yeah, and there's other characters too. Yeah, these ones. But let's be for real. Did anybody really expect them to survive? I think in Alien fashion, if you're gonna go see an Alien movie, you're gonna go see dead people. Except maybe Rook, because if this android survived this long, what's to say he won't come back again? Obviously, rest in peace to Ian Holm. He did an amazing job in the original film, and they said that they used a mix of VFX and a prosthetic head, but it looked more VFX than it did a real head. But his inclusion also led to some of the more weirder aspects of the film. I was really confused about the ship they were on, because Rook is found in the Nostromo, and it's apparently the same Nostromo that was in the original movie, because you can see a gun that Ripley used to launch the xenomorph into space. But Rook is not Ash, and you don't see Ash. And so I was really confused throughout the film, but then I looked it up afterwards, and it turns out it is the actual Nostromo, and that they had sent another team in order to investigate, and they ended up getting killed, and that's why there's like a shit ton of alien eggs on the ship. I really wish they made that a little more clear, because it did feel weird just seeing Ian Holm show up again, and then he plays a different character, but the ship is exactly the same, you know, and I could see where people would get confused in that regard. I mean, luckily the ship was pretty much a real set. And speaking of real, dude, does this film know how to use practical effects? Oh my god, I'm so glad that this film didn't just CGI all the xenomorphs like Covenant and Prometheus. By the way, I love those films, don't get me wrong. But when you see a real xenomorph, when you see somebody in a costume, it feels more real, it feels so much more tangible, especially during close-up scenes where you see all the details these production designers put onto them. And I feel like it also improves the performances of the actors, because when the actors are close to the xenomorphs, they can bounce off of that xenomorph, and it looks so real. And I wish more movies went in this direction. And obviously nowadays we're starting to see that a little bit more, and it's good, because then you don't want to end up with bad CGI like this. But this also kind of delves into another aspect, which is that Fede knew what he was doing. He had a vision with this film, and he executed the vision. The reason a lot of these other big budget movies have shitty CGI like this is because, well, they film a movie, they don't like it, they go back for reshoots, they change things halfway through, and so there's not enough time to really refine and take care of the VFX, because it's just going to change later on. But with this film, you can tell that Fede knew what he was doing. He wanted to create this story. He had apparently pitched this to Ridley Scott years before, and so I'm glad that he finally got it made. And the payoff was immense. I mean, like I said, the set design was phenomenal. The production design was phenomenal. The animatronic xenomorph was fucking terrifying. We're gonna get back to that in a second. Where the movie really takes the cake for me is in the back half. I mean, the first half of the film is very reminiscent of the original film. Now, in the original one, right, Ripley just fights the xenomorph, launches him into space, burns him with the jet engine. Bam, all good is done. Nah, dude, what they do with this film was so eerie, gross, disgusting, and terrifying. So, in Prometheus, there's this black goo, the same goo that you're not supposed to inject yourself with. And it's the creation of life. The issue is, it's the creation of life in the vision of the engineers. That's a whole lot of bullshit that don't even want to acknowledge right now, because that's a video for another day, right? But the point is, it leads to the creation of a xenomorph, because in Alien, I guess the xenomorph is the perfect species, the perfect organism, whatever, right? People don't know the side effects. All they know is that, hey, it gives you life. Sure, whatever, right? And so there's Isabella Merced's character is pregnant. I just found out this really fucked up detail that she actually got pregnant by her cousin, who's on the ship, who's also the same guy that mistreats Andy, but luckily he gets melted by a xenomorph. And so in order to live, she injects herself with the black goo. Obviously, number one mistake in movies, don't inject yourself with the black goo. And she survives, but the issue is that since she's pregnant, the goo does the whole alien thing, and the alien comes out in this weird fucking cocoon that looks disgusting already. She literally gives birth to nightmare fuel. This is the creepiest human-alien hybrid I've ever seen. I mean, I know they pretty much did it in Resurrection, but fuck me, this is way worse. This is just so gross looking, bro. I can't stand looking at his face. But that's where the film works, because it gets the job done. And that's what makes the last half of this film so crazy, is that it subverts the original's ending and goes in its own direction. Rain is pretty much fighting this thing alone. I mean, you know, she's just using her wits, she's using the ship's resources. Jesus Christ, if I was her, I'd be scared and grossed out at the same time as well, because what the fuck is this shit, man? This is fucking terrifying. Alvarez, you were one sick son of a bitch for creating this Slenderman fucking xenomorph ass son of a bitch. And then when he smiles, it's so disgusting. But the cinematography in the film was pretty good as well. Great visuals led to great scenes, especially the Dutch angles. Great use of the Dutch angles in this. But Jesus Christ, is that Slenderman ass motherfucker so gross to look at. But overall, that was Alien Romulus 2024. Like I said, I really like this film. It bridges the gap between the original movies and the new stuff by keeping the form and function while still doing its own thing and expanding the lore of the world more than one would expect. And it does that all at the same time while being a standalone film that you can watch without needing to have watched the other Alien films, which just takes the icing on the cake. You can go into this film and just have a nice, good old time. Relatively speaking, the back half isn't so nice, but obviously, as per usual, thank you, and thank you for taking the time to watch me talk about Slenderman. God, he's so creepy. Until next time, see you, Space Cowboys.